Welcome to this week's Silicon Slopes Conversations. We're here with Rushi Ganmukhi, who is the CEO and founder of Bola AI. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So, strong Utah presence here for Bola AI, but you are out of Boston?
Yeah, I'm out of Boston. And so, majority of our team actually now is here. Just happened completely organically. And we've had a great time hiring out of here. We have a great team out of here. Solid guys. And when you come here, you can really feel you can see and feel the energy of just building new companies. It's great.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so let's start with a little bit of your background, and then you can start to weave in like the founding story if you'd like. If not, I will ask you about it. But AI is in the news a lot, and you've kind of been doing this for a while.
Yeah, so I've been in AI for a long time, at least 8 or 10 years now. My background, I was an AI researcher at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology for a few years. Worked primarily on language processing, which I know with ChatGPT and everything, it's having its day in the sun, so I'm happy about that. Worked on some cool projects, really got to understand the technology, understand how it's used in academia and industry, and come from an entrepreneurial family, so I thought the time was right to jump out, probably around 2017, 2018, and start a company. And right at that time, Alexa, Google Home were taking off. They were supposed to be the next hottest thing. Everything was supposed to be voice-enabled. Everything was supposed to be chat-enabled. Didn't end up happening, but there was a lot of hype around that technology. And so we took a look at it and said, all right, where can we... Voice technology is cool. Language technology is cool. It's now come to a point where it's extremely powerful. It's not your old systems of calling like Comcast and press one to speak to an agent, 2 to talk about billing. Like that's gone. It's much more fluid, much more usable. So the technology has just taken off. We started Bola AI. Just being in Boston, probably half my contacts are in the healthcare industry. And so everyone was always saying to me, yeah, we could use this. Doctors could use this. Dentists could use this. And so I actually looked at dental as a starting point. And it's dental within the broader healthcare picture is a booming industry, especially with AI and everything that's happening both on the financial side with the roll-ups and private equity and all this money coming into dental offices, and on the other side with all the technology coming in. It's just ripe for new products. And so that's how we got our start.
All right. I thought it would be like you hated going to the dentist because of this, but it was a strategic vision on that.
I will say, I'm going to send this to my sister later, I've only had one cavity in my life. She has way more than me, so I don't mind the dentist. I actually quite liked it.
Well, to that point, you're supposed to go to the dentist every 6 months, allegedly.
Yes.
So you don't need a Harvard MBA to figure out that that is a good cash flow model if everyone goes to the dentist every 6 months.
Exactly.
And there's dental offices that are more profitable than others, and there's reasons because of that, right?
Yeah.
And so if you guys, dental offices seem fairly straightforward unless you are the dentist trying to run it and everything else. They love saving time and money. You guys have built something that helps them with that. Tell us about the actual product.
Sure thing. And I will say to the dental point as well, most dentists are entrepreneurs themselves, which is great. They speak your language. They understand what you're doing. They understand efficiencies. They read their P&L every month just like I do. And so they're entrepreneurs. So having that mindset as your customer is really, really nice. In terms of our product, the first product we built was the Voice Perio product. And that helps hygienists with perio charting. They're marking something like 500 values in 5 to 10 minutes. You ask any dental hygienist, this is the worst part of their day. And so if we can help with that, if we can either make it quicker, have them depend less on a dental assistant coming in and taking up her time as well, you're just providing efficiencies back to the dental office completely. And especially with a little bit of fortuitous timing with COVID and all the things that happened around that, with hygienist shortage, nurse shortage, dental appointments becoming longer because you don't want too many patients sitting in the office. You don't want too many people in the room. it's just been a really good time for launching our product.
Yeah. So for those that don't go to the dentist that often, you've got the person cleaning your teeth and then somebody assisting.
Yes, you typically have an assistant.
And where does your technology and product fit in, and how is it additive?
Yeah, so our product fits in with, where our first product fits in with the dental hygienist. And that's typically who's doing the cleaning, who's doing the perio charting. The dentist will then come in, and we have a product hopefully coming soon to address some efficiencies with them as well. And yeah, then typically the dentist comes in, sees you do the final work, talks to you about how many cavities you have. Then you're off and go, and typically you come back for a repeat call if you need to get that cavity filled or for your 6-month checkup.
Yeah. And I guess the ultimate reason not being a dentist and tracking all of this information is so that the next visit is productive, fast, quick, and you can kind of make sure you stay on the track.
Exactly. If you get it right the first time, you don't have to do it the second or third time.
And with you guys and your technology, less is lost in translation, and it's a clearer picture.
Exactly.
Okay. So you mentioned MIT, as good as it gets.
Thank you.
And a lot of ideas percolate at these campuses, and a lot of research is done, and they're not a good fit for the big bad entrepreneurial world, or they are, and then they never got discovered. But in this case, like you starting a company based on your previous experience and background, what was the starting point, right? Like, we've got this, we got to build it, we got to market it, all of that. What was it like for you in the early days?
Yeah, so I like to say I'm not anymore, but I think I still am a product and engineering guy. So I love thinking about the product. I love talking to customers. I love thinking about the tech and going in a room and blackboarding all day or whiteboarding all day. I absolutely love that part. So when we started out, it was a few engineers. We started building it. Quickly, we started talking to some great partners, and I know some of those members are here today. And Henry Schein One has been a phenomenal partner with us, just through and through. And they really helped. That was our go-to-market and our launch. And so that's one of the reasons that brings us to Utah, and that's really how we got our foothold in Utah. And while that partnership was going on, we decided to hire a few people here. I know Paul's our first Utah. He's the seed of Bola in Utah, and we started to hire a few people here to work with that team. And then he introduced me to his friends. They introduced me to their friends, and one thing became another.
There you go. So you guys, you mentioned Henry Schein One as like a great partner, Trojan horse into this big, massive ecosystem. And would you be able to go back and remember your first class of customers, your actual first customer? Because I assume feedback was like critical.
Yeah.
Still is, but in the early days.
Yes, we used to travel every Friday, and typically Friday afternoons we used to hold, and we used to go to dental offices, and we used to try out the product. Our engineers would be on like a Thursday to Thursday schedule to get new features done, and we'd go in the dental office, and there'd be patients, and we'd be watching them do it, and it was really, really nerve-wracking in the beginning, because some days it went way over your expectations, and then there were the other days. So I think really keeping that crystal clear focus on your customer, I think that's the biggest thing you can do for a startup. But especially where you're in a field that I'm not a dentist, everything they do is completely foreign to me. So by talking to your customers, asking them the right questions, meeting with people like advisors who can help you kind of translate what your customer is telling you to what you want to build, that's just huge.
So if it was a Friday that didn't go well, you had to think about it over the entire weekend, and everyone knew that Monday was going to be less than fun?
Yes, exactly. Or everyone would marinate over it over the weekend, and probably Friday night, Saturday, you'd have the bad ideas of changing everything, ripping everything out and changing everything, and by Monday, you would have a much clearer mind, and you'd sit down, talk about it, decide on top priorities. It was typically tried to keep it to one, maybe two things, and then try to get that out that week.
And that's feasible in 2023 to like have a bad Friday, have a good Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and have something be changed by Friday.
Exactly. That quick iteration is crucial when you're early. Just getting the basics right.
and then you go rinse and repeat. You go to a different dental office on Friday.
Yep.
Interesting. Is that like a new management methodology that you guys have discovered?
The Friday customers?
Yeah.
Could be. I like it.
And then
It's
your
time-
wife's like, why are you so ornery? Oh, it's because of this methodology we invented.
It's because, exactly.
Or why are you so happy today? Oh,
I don't
it's
know
'cause
if I
of
could
this
fill a book out
methodology.
with that. It would be
Yeah.
more of a single page. Just go to your customers on Fridays.
There you go. So along the way, you've got all the normal problems with HR and payroll and marketing and getting customers. With this partnership with Henry Schein, how was that relationship? How did the reporting go? How did the feedback go? Ultimately, who did what role?
Yeah. So that was a great partnership. I mean, it is a great partnership. It's still going. I think it's definitely a little daunting at first, being a startup working with such a big company. It's quite terrifying, honestly. But I think the thing that always works in all facets of of the business is do your best. Communicate clearly what you're building, when, what timelines. Issues are always going to happen. And when they happen, you have to let them know why. And whether it's a customer, a partner, advisor, somebody who's dependent on you, you have to let them know why and what you're doing to alleviate it. And typically it's just the effort. People just want to know you're putting in the effort to fix it. And so, yeah, that's been a great partnership.
And as far as the AI part of things, you had the company in 2017, you've got all the problems of building that. Then you had COVID. And that impacted you and everyone, obviously, but it sounds like it was silver lining for you guys. And then all of a sudden, something happens and AI is at the tip of everyone's tongue. How do you guys talk about that as a company? How do you talk about it with your experience? And you probably have to be a PR spokesman for AI in general.
Yeah. Well, I think with all the new technologies, and I don't think we've seen the last of it, I'm sure 2 years from now, 3 years from now, maybe next year, there's going to be another huge monumental shift like we've seen with the GPT technology in the last few years. And I think investing the time for the team to stay on top of it. It's new technology. We want to really understand how we can use it, how it fits into what we're doing, how it's different from what we're doing. But I think the really exciting part about this new AI technology is I think more products are going to come out fast, whether it's us or new companies. I think the speed of product development is going to be crazy in the next few years.
Yeah. And we just actually had an AI summit yesterday, and Dave Wright, the CEO of Pattern, because the debate, whether it's the front page of the Wall Street Journal or here at these types of events, is like AI is going to take your job, possibly send a nuclear bomb, but we're not going to worry about that. It's just, it might take your job. He's like, I'm not sure, because he wasn't drawing a line in the sand either way on that, but there's a really good chance that people that leverage AI will take your job. What is your view on that, in particular, because you've got folks using AI that theoretically might think it'll take their job?
Yeah, so I think most people, especially outside of tech, what they see in the news, yeah, AI, don't give it the nuclear launch codes. AI is going to take all of our jobs. The economy is going to look completely different, and no one's going to have jobs. And it's quite terrifying. You read the headlines everywhere, yeah, New York Times, Crunchbase, whatever, and that's what you feel. I think we take a little bit of a different view, and I think a lot of AI companies do take a little bit of a different view, where the power of AI is actually helping the human. It's enhancing the individual, and in this case, the dentist or the medical professional. They've been in school for a really long time. And so they know what they're doing. They've probably practiced for 10, 15 years, say our average user. They know what they're doing. And there are parts of their workflow that they don't like. I mentioned the perio chart. They just don't like it. It's administrative work for them. So that's where AI can enhance them. By taking something mundane and repetitive to them off their plate, they can spend time with patients. They can spend time with their staff. They can educate patients better. That's where their time, they feel, and we also feel, that's where their time should be spent. So AI is about enhancing the person, not replacing the person.
Yeah. And there's usually this, ROI, right? And at some point you're going to need to track that and prove that. When was the first time you were able to get the feedback from the dentists, either anecdotally or through data? It saved 4 hours a week, and I associate that with like being able to go to my kid's soccer game, or I was able to do 4 new clients. Ultimately, there's an ROI there. How soon was it that you guys were able to show that?
Yeah, so for our product, it's kind of funny. There's 2 levels or 2 orders of the ROI case. So the first one is the obvious one, and that's the efficiency. We're giving time back to the dental hygienist. We're giving time back to the dentist, to the dental assistant. And that time is typically spent with patients or doing the things they're supposed to do during an exam, and making their life better. So that's really when our product is launched in an office, within the first week, 2 weeks, typically actually in the first few days, they see that right away. They're alleviated. And so that's a great ROI for them in terms of the cost savings. Now, you talk to offices, and especially when you start talking to the enterprise groups, cost savings is nice. Generating more revenue is what everyone's really excited about. Everyone wants that top line to go up. Cost savings is less sexy. So what we've been able to show, and we've worked with a lot of our offices and some of our bigger enterprise clients doing case studies. And we did a 6-month case study with one of the largest groups in the United States, and showed that basically by freeing up the staff, giving them back the time, they're actually reinvesting that into patients. They're reinvesting that into doing more thorough exams, maybe not jumping all the way through the exam because they're tight on time for a patient exam. So they're doing it more frequently, and they're doing it more thoroughly. So they're actually diagnosing more treatment. Not that that disease already existed in the population, but because they're able to spend more time with the patients, they're diagnosing more. And now, because they're diagnosing more, that leads to more treatment revenue for them, and that affects their top line, and that gets them really excited.
And cost savings is less sexy, and the top line is where it's at. It's
Exactly.
Interesting.
Exactly.
We mentioned the partnerships and as a great Trojan horse, but if there's a dental office in Winnemucca, Nevada, and they express interest, I'm sure you guys would be happy about that. What is the process for them to reach out to you, ultimately become a customer and onboarding? How long does that take, and how does that work?
So we want to make it, in general, our principle, both with the product, onboarding, sales, is as seamless as possible. Again, as mentioned, offices, they're working 9 to 5, 8 hours a day, 8 patients a day, and maybe they can squeeze in a bag of Doritos for lunch. So to ask them to take time for onboarding, ask them to take time for sales is just, you can't do that. And so we try to make everything as seamless as possible. So of course we offer a trial. So once they talk to Miles, my VP of sales who's somewhere here, they can sign up for the trial, they can start using the product. In terms of implementation, it's a quick install. You can either do a training through my team, or there's a training system, self-guided training system that you can walk through. And all those things really allow them to move fast and not impede what they're doing right now.
Gotcha. Very cool. In a few minutes, we're going to open up for Q&A from the audience. There will be a microphone roaming around, so get your courage up. Get ready to ask some questions to Rushi. Whether you're in AI or selling apples from a cart, like if things go well, you need to theoretically have some capital to grow that. How have you guys thought through that? Are you bootstrapped? Have you raised money? What is your philosophy around that?
Yeah, so we are completely, to the day, no institutional capital in Bola. It's been angels, it's been dentists, great source of fundraising for us, and we've kept the team extremely lean. And I think we're only 11 people right now, and we're really cruising. And I think that's the key, especially in this economy, where fundraising may be a little tight, is to keep the team lean. And really you can do that by focusing. Focus on 1 to 2 big priorities that are going to make or break your year, and execute on those. Everything else is extra and bloats the company tremendously. So I would highly suggest, especially in the early days, keep the company lean. You're running a business, and you need to watch your top line, your bottom line, your costs. Those are all things you need to be considerate about.
Yeah, and as you grow the top line and watch the bottom line, where is the focus of an AI company similar to yours? Is it in sales and marketing? Is it in R&D? Or is it just a perpetual like shell game of where you need it most?
It's a fine balance. It's a fine balance because, of course, you want to increase the revenue. You want to hit those big growth numbers year over year. But that has to be supported by product and engineering. So if you create a great culture, and I think we have a great culture in our team where my VP of marketing, my VP of sales, our partners will come to us and say, these things will help us grow. These things will help us sell. These things will help us increase our market. They'll increase our per customer take home. And getting that pull via the sales and marketing team from the customers to the product and engineering team. If you get that pipeline right, you're great. Because you're literally hearing from the customer what the engineering team needs to build and then delivering it to them. It's a seamless thing when it works right.
Interesting. And you mentioned previously your product and development, you liked to whiteboard things out. Now you've got to wear a lot of different hats, and over the years in talking with a lot of CEOs, like they like to get back to their core at some point. Do you fight that of like, oh, I'm going to go join that whiteboard session, or oh, I gotta hop on this call with this new customer or possible angel investor? How do you deal with your previous experience versus CEO?
Yeah, it's a fine balance. I think that's one of the big takeaways again about being a startup CEO is everything's a fine balance. And yes, some weeks you're all over your sales and marketing team because you want to make quarter numbers, which will probably be next week, honestly, when I get back from this trip. And so you're completely focused on that. You're talking, what's in the pipeline? Who are we looking at? What can we close this quarter? What can we close in July? And some weeks and days you'll just be completely on that. Then other days you'll be on the product engineering side, and if you have a good week, you may be completely prototyping stuff that you want to launch in 3 years or something like that. And you need to make sure there's a balance there. I typically do that just by balancing my calendar and just being really tight on my calendar. But if you let it go, it doesn't work out too badly either, because I think as long as you keep all your priorities in mind, you can move between those things pretty well.
All right, let's open it up to questions here from the audience. Raise your hand if you've got a question for Rushi.
My name's Seth Hewitt. I'm actually with one of the partners and have sold the product for a while. I appreciate it. So I had previously sold a product and always would try and talk dentists out of getting it because it was so terrible. And so this has been a breath of fresh air with a ton of good feedback.
Thank you, Seth.
Yeah, one of the questions I have though, as I was listening to you is, and being married to a dental hygienist, is all the perio data in regards to the perio charting, is that something that comes back to you and we're compiled and able to project trends in order to leverage some of that treatment for the doctors, or what's kind of the strategy there?
Yeah, so that's actually a really interesting part, and I think that's true of many data companies in our stage. Right now, we don't do anything with that data. It's typically for QA or debugging, but I definitely think down the road there's something to be had there. And whether it's looking at population trends or individual trends, data, what's the saying? Data's the new oil. I hate that I said that. We edit that part out, but it is really valuable, and I think especially with AI taking off, I mean, all these models are public. You can pay to use GPT. Google releases their stuff. Facebook releases their stuff. So that's not really where the power lies. It's not in the actual model. It's in the data you have. And so by collecting it and leveraging it in the future, you can do amazing things.
I couldn't process data for more than a nanosecond. I'm just not smart enough. But theoretically, you could say a certain community is eating way too many gummy bears and drinking way too much zero sugar Dr. Pepper.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's a data point.
Hello. Where do you see Bola going in 3 to 5 years? Not just in dental, but other areas.
Yeah, so this is a little to the point of what we talked about balancing what you're looking at. Today's business is dental, think 90% of our revenue is from dental, but we've always had a bigger vision of getting into medical. We're starting to look into niche areas of medical where a voice assistant like ours could really dominate the market. And so there's some cool areas we're looking at, and I think that's really where the future lies. And we've spent a little time prototyping in that area. Again, it's actually really fun because you get back to basics. You get back to how you started this. You start doing the Fridays again, going out, meeting dentists, doctors, seeing what their workflow is, seeing how Bola can fit into that. So it's really fun, and I think the future is really bright in that area.
Yeah. Or a doctor could go for his dental appointment.
Yeah, there you
be
go.
Like, what is this? Why do I not have it?
Exactly.
Little circle of life there.
Well, the funny thing is when we talk to doctors, they see our demo video, and it's very, very dental specific, our demo videos. But they're immediately able to project out into what they're doing and seeing it. And they say, oh, you can do this? Oh, just change these 3 things for me, and I'd love to use this. And so that's really cool.
Yeah, makes it easier.
Exactly.
Love it.
My name is Shelly Brown, and I use Bola AI in my practice. I'm a dental hygienist.
Oh,
so I
very
want to
nice.
say thank you for making this product. It makes the appointment faster, and probe naps are terrible.
Yeah.
I
See?
will attest to
I
that.
told you.
But the patient gets to hear it out loud, and it's a really nice educational tool for patients to kind of take control of their health. I guess my question to you is, you said that you're always developing the product, but health history, I think for all of us in dental or medical, we all hate filling it out,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I would love to see, maybe you could let us know if you're working on this, but AI help with health history, because I can look at it and hopefully see all of the patient's needs from their health history, and honestly, it gets kind of skipped. How many times have I gone to the medical doctor and I'm like, you didn't even look at my health history that I just spent 30 minutes filling out. So is that on the docket?
So that's really interesting that you brought that up. I think something like that was on the roadmap, kind of similar, but not exactly health history. So I'm going to take a look at that when I go home, actually.
Please
Because
do.
I typically have, if I hear something from like 5 people 5 times, then I'm like, okay, we got to build this thing. That's typically the rule. First time, this is maybe the 3rd time. So I say, first time, oh, that's nice. Maybe that's an out there case. Second time, interesting. 3rd time, especially from doctors and dentists, then it becomes really interesting. And by the time you get to 5, you're probably building it. So thank you.
Can somebody else ask that 2 more
I'll
times?
count
To 3.
Because you're a customer, you get 3 votes. So there you go. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you using our product and that feedback.
Was there a hand over here? Sorry. I saw a hand. No? Okay. So by the way, whoever that hand was, I did see it. Get your courage back up. But I have plenty of questions. You're at a family barbecue or you're on a plane back to Boston and you tell people what you do. They don't care about the actual business side. They just want to talk about AI.
Yeah.
Which is either good or bad for you.
It's fun.
If you want to take a nap, bad. The changes coming with AI, you mentioned the big players, and then there's going to be thousands of additive players. How do you guys look around the corner, stay nimble, stay ahead of the curve?
Yeah, I think, just as I mentioned, I think there's going to be so many companies and so many products over the next few years. It's going to be amazing. And yeah, as a company, we really want to spend the time and understand the technology and not just write it off like, hey, what we're doing is working. Let's just keep doing it, because that's, as a startup, that's your death. And so I think investing the time, giving our engineers the time to play around with this new technology, going to whether it's old customers, new markets, and playing around with these new technologies with them, that's really how you stay ahead of the curve. And it's just kind of really purposefully putting that investment back into your team and valuing that your team now knows this technology, and that's an asset for the company, truly.
Yeah. And the ecosystem in Boston, as you've seen it and experienced it versus here, it's probably not that different except in time and maybe industry. But what are some correlations that you do see that cross over into both?
Well, I think just the startup environment is huge in both areas. Just walking into this building, I was telling my team it's a very similar to a workspace I worked in Boston. And same thing, events, specialty events around AI, around entrepreneurship. It's very, very similar that way. I will say Utah has a different energy, and I like, in a good way, and I like it. I think it's a little younger in terms of just all the building, and even you drive around, you see new buildings going up, you see new houses going up. There's an energy here around building, which it's really reinvigorating. And coming here this week has been great. A lot of my team has been at other startups. A lot of the people we talk to have been at really successful startups in Utah. And so I think it's going to be big. I think Utah is, hopefully no one on the East Coast sees this, because I think it's my hidden gem.
That's right. There it is. I'm not sure if you were the first one, but I know I did see some fluttering over there.
I wasn't the first one, but that's okay. So I'm just curious, as you're looking at your business, how do you look at a ratio personnel-wise of how you balance sales, marketing, go-to-market functions versus product development? And then as you're looking towards your next hires, what are you targeting? What are you looking at? Where do you see yourself growing?
Yeah, so I'd say we take both views, the top-down view of like the really nitty-gritty view of what percent of the money are we spending on sales and marketing, what percent are we spending on G&A, what percent are we spending on R&D. That's one way to look at it, a little more spreadsheet-wise. Then there's the bottom-up view of what projects are coming up, how big of a sales force do we need to hit targets next quarter. And so you've got to find the mix of both of those. Because if you do the bottoms-up one, you'll probably end up too skewed one way. If you do the top-down one, it's a little cold and you're just running your company off a spreadsheet. So you've got to keep that mix in the balance. And as I mentioned before, I think product engineering has a role to play in growth. And so by investing in product and engineering, you're not saying this is something for 2 years down the road, you're saying this is something that's going to affect us 6 months down the road. And like everything, it's got to be balanced. So I'd say for our next set of hires, I think it will be a little more on the sales and marketing side. We've been a little light on that, and I think rebalancing the company towards that is the next steps and probably the next 6 months of Bola.
Last question over there, and are you able to stick around for a few minutes? For those
Yeah, no problem.
Cool.
So how do you see regulation coming in from the government? That seems to be get brought up too. What do you think that's going to look like?
Yeah, so I'm curious. I'm really curious, and I know the EU is looking at some things, the US is looking at some things. I'm really curious to see how it plays out. I think they'll take the stance of being, especially in the United States with the business focus, with the entrepreneurship focus. I think the United States government will take the stance, the dry air here. There we go. I think the U.S. government will take the stance of allowing businesses to flourish and not handcuffing them in the beginning. But I think some other countries may be a little more strict. And I think that will probably play out over the next few years. But as companies that are started today that are purely AI-based can't even imagine what they'd be doing. But as they'll start to grow into behemoths, I think they'll take a little stricter stance.
That'll be fun for everyone to navigate.
That's a good problem to have. If you're that big, that's a good problem to have.
Good problem to have. Well, you mentioned you're out here having a lot of meetings and you had used 4 jokes and that you needed 4 more. So if you guys have jokes for Rushi when you come up and talk to him, give him those because he's out of jokes.
I'm out of jokes.
All jokes aside, this has been so fun. Thank you
Likewise.
for taking the time to join us. Congrats to you and your team. And it's really nice when people build stuff that saves other people money and time. And I love that you have dentists on your cap table. That's great.
It helps. Thank you so much for having me.
You bet.
It's been great.
You. Thank you.